For centuries, the story of Atlantis has captivated explorers, historians, and dreamers. A lost civilization swallowed by the sea, described by Plato as a powerful and advanced society. But what if Atlantis wasn't just a myth? What if it was real? And what if its disappearance was tied to a cataclysmic event, a global flood that shattered the supercontinent of Pangea? Today, we're diving deep into the mystery of Atlantis, exploring its possible locations and asking, could this ancient civilization have existed on a pre-flood Earth? Let's start with the source, Plato. In his dialogues, Timaeus and Critias, he describes Atlantis as a massive island beyond the Pillars of Hercules, what we now call the Strait of Gibraltar. Atlantis was said to be larger than Asia Minor and Libya combined, with concentric rings of water and land, a thriving civilization, and advanced technology. But in a single day and night, it sank into the sea. Was this just a story? Or was Plato recording a real event? Plato's account is incredibly detailed. He describes Atlantis as a paradise, rich in resources like gold, silver, and precious stones. The city was built with concentric rings of water and land, connected by bridges and canals. At its center stood a grand temple dedicated to Poseidon, the god of the sea. The Atlanteans were a powerful people with a formidable navy and a vast empire. But their pride and ambition led to their downfall. According to Plato, they waged war against Athens and other civilizations, but were defeated. Soon after, the island was struck by earthquakes and floods, sinking into the ocean in a single day and night of misfortune. But here's the twist. Plato claims this story wasn't his invention. He says it was passed down to him by Egyptian priests who recorded it in their ancient texts. According to them, Atlantis existed 9,000 years before Solon, one of Plato's ancestors. That would place Atlantis around 11,000 years ago, long before the rise of known civilizations like Egypt or Mesopotamia. So, was Atlantis real? Or was it just a cautionary tale invented by Plato to teach a lesson about hubris and the consequences of greed? To answer that question, we need to look beyond Plato's account and explore the geological and historical evidence. And that's where things get really interesting. To understand Atlantis, we need to reimagine the Earth as it might have been before a global flood. Picture Pangea, a single supercontinent, home to a unified human civilization. But then, catastrophe struck. A massive flood, triggered by the breakup of Pangea, reshaped the world. Continents drifted apart, oceans rose, and entire civilizations were lost beneath the waves. Could Atlantis have been one of them? The idea of a pre-flood Earth isn't new. Many ancient cultures, from the Sumerians to the Maya, have flood myths that describe a great deluge. The biblical story of Noah's Ark is perhaps the most famous, but similar tales can be found in Hindu, Greek, and Native American traditions. These stories often describe a world before the flood as a golden age, where humanity lived in harmony with nature. But something went wrong. A divine punishment, a natural disaster, or both, and the world was reset. If we take these myths seriously, they suggest that a global flood did occur, and that it had a profound impact on human history. But how does this connect to Atlantis? Well, if Atlantis existed before the flood, it would have been part of a very different world. A world where the continents were joined together in a single landmass. This would explain why Plato's description of Atlantis doesn't match any modern geography. The Earth looked very different back then. So let's imagine a pre-flood Earth. Pangea, the supercontinent, was a vast landmass surrounded by a single global ocean. The climate was warmer, and the land was lush and fertile. Human civilization, if it existed, would have been concentrated in this region. But then something happened. The Earth's crust began to crack and the continents began to drift apart. This process, known as continental drift, would have caused massive earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and tsunamis. The floodwaters rose, swallowing entire cities and civilizations. Could Atlantis have been one of them? This is where the story gets really fascinating. If Atlantis was part of Pangea, its location would have been very different from what we see today. The Pillars of Hercules, for example, wouldn't have existed yet. Instead, the Strait of Gibraltar would have been part of a larger landmass. This means that Atlantis could have been located in a region that is now underwater, or even on a continent that has since shifted thousands of miles away. If Atlantis was real, where was it? Let's explore the top candidates using Plato's clues and the pre-flood Earth model. Number 1. The Azores Plateau. Located in the Atlantic Ocean, west of the Strait of Gibraltar, the Azores are a remnant of a larger landmass. Could this sunken plateau be the remains of Atlantis? The Azores are a chain of volcanic islands in the mid-Atlantic. Geologically, they sit on a plateau that was once above water. Some researchers believe this plateau could have been part of Atlantis. The islands themselves are rich in natural resources, including gold and silver, which aligns with Plato's description. But there's a problem. The Azores are much smaller than Plato's Atlantis. Could they have been part of a larger landmass that sank? Recent underwater explorations have revealed submerged structures near the Azores, including what appear to be man-made pyramids and roads. While these findings are controversial, they suggest that the Azores could have been part of a larger civilization that was destroyed by the flood. Number 2. The Richat structure, Eye of the Sahara. In Mauritania, this circular formation matches Plato's description of concentric rings. Was this once the heart of Atlantis? The Richat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara, is a mysterious geological feature in the African desert. From above, it looks like a series of concentric rings, similar to Plato's description of Atlantis. Some researchers believe it could be the remains of the lost city. The problem? It's located inland, not in the Atlantic Ocean. But if we consider that the Sahara was once a lush, fertile region, it's possible that the Richat structure was part of a larger civilization that was destroyed by the flood. The Sahara wasn't always a desert. Around 10,000 years ago, it was a green, fertile land with rivers, lakes, and abundant wildlife. Could Atlantis have been located here, in a region that was later transformed by climate change and the flood? The Richat structure's unique geology and alignment with Plato's description make it a compelling candidate. Number 3. Antarctica. What if Atlantis was buried under ice? Antarctica, once a temperate region, could have been home to an advanced civilization before a sudden crustal shift. Antarctica is one of the most mysterious places on Earth. Today it's a frozen wasteland, but long ago it was a temperate region with forests and rivers. Some researchers believe that Antarctica could have been the location of Atlantis. The theory goes like this. During the last ice age, Antarctica was located closer to the equator. A sudden shift in the Earth's crust, known as crustal displacement, caused it to move to its current location, burying it under ice. Could the remains of Atlantis be hidden beneath the Antarctic ice sheet? Recent satellite imagery has revealed strange formations beneath the ice, including what appear to be man-made structures. While these findings are still debated, they suggest that Antarctica could hold the key to unlocking the mystery of Atlantis. Number 4. Florida and the Caribbean. Let's zoom in on Florida and the Caribbean. During the last ice age, much of this region was above water, forming a vast, habitable landmass. Elephants, horses, and 26 of the 28 tree species Plato described thrived here. If Atlantis was part of this region, its sinking could explain the sudden disappearance. The Bimini Road, an underwater rock formation near the Bahamas, has long been a subject of fascination. Some researchers believe it's a man-made structure, a remnant of Atlantis. Others argue it's a natural formation. The truth is still debated, but if the Bimini Road is indeed man-made, it could be a clue to Atlantis' location. Another piece of evidence is Florida's ancient ecosystem. During the last ice age, Florida was home to mastodons, horses, and a wide variety of trees. This aligns with Plato's description of Atlantis as a land rich in flora and fauna. If Atlantis was part of this region, its sinking could explain why these species suddenly disappeared. But there's a problem. Florida and the Caribbean are far from the Pillars of Hercules. Could this be a mistake in Plato's account? Or could the Pillars of Hercules have been in a different location before the flood? If we consider that the Earth's geography was very different before the breakup of Pangea, it's possible that Florida and the Caribbean were much closer to the Pillars of Hercules than they are today. If Atlantis was real, its story could rewrite human history. The global flood, the breakup of Pangea, and the scattering of civilizations. These events could explain the similarities in myths, architecture, and technology found in ancient cultures worldwide. Atlantis might not just be a lost city, it could be the key to understanding our past. The story of Atlantis reminds us that our planet holds secrets we're only beginning to uncover. Whether it was in the Azores, the Sahara, Antarctica, or Florida, the search for Atlantis is more than a quest for a lost city. It's a journey into the heart of human history. What do you think? Could Atlantis have been real? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and explore more mysteries with us. Until next time, keep searching for the truth.